A legendary Republican leader just came out of his snake pit with a stark warning. Donald Trump will destroy the GOP, and he's doing it while other party leaders sit on their hands and do nothing. Or in the case of J.D. Vance, sit on the couch and do something I can't say here on YouTube. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. So, as we close out the year, Trump is violating international law with attacks on Venezuela. The war in Ukraine continues to rage on. Israel's ceasefire with Hamas continues to teeter since nobody has put forward a two-state solution. The K-shaped economy is in the tank for most Americans. And the taco president is setting the record for the most number of cognitive tests taken by a president in a single year. Well, bravo, Donald. And if that unfiltered assessment doesn't quite give you optimism as we all face the dawn of a new year together, well, guess what? You're not alone. Even a large number of Trump voters would actually agree with you. For proof, we turn to CNN's Harry Enten, who, judging by the comments on one of my segments yesterday, and yes, we do read them, some people love Harry and some people can't stand him. For that latter group, who wishes he would switch to decaf as badly as I do, bear with me here. Harry has the receipts.
Hey, Manu, look, 2025 was not exactly the best year for the President of the United States. He started off in pretty gosh darn good territory, right? Trump's net approval rating in January, he was 6 points above water, pretty much above where he was during his entire first term in office. But look what happens come December. 12 points underwater, way down there. That is an 18-point decline during the course of the year. Now, what has driven Donald Trump's decline in his net approval rating? Well, it's independents. That is the name of the game, baby. Look, in January, Donald Trump's net approval rating among independents was about even, minus 1 point. Not too hot to trot, but not too bad either. Now, whoosh, we're talking about 43 points underwater come December. That is a decline of 42 points on his net approval rating. Donald Trump is hanging out with Jacques Cousteau. That is how far underwater Donald Trump is with independents at this point. Now, what issues are driving this decline in Trump's approval rating, his net approval rating? Well, let's look at two of the key issues, right? The economy, the reason that Donald Trump was elected to a second term back in January, he was in pretty good shape at plus 9 points on the net approval rating. But look, come December, 16 points underwater. That is a decline, doing the math quickly here, of 25 points.
And if you think that looks like bad news for Trump, congratulations, you have more common sense than that orange blimp himself. And stick around, because it does get worse. 2026, of course, will see a number of key gubernatorial races, as well as midterm elections for the Congress. And conventional wisdom already holds that despite Trump's trying to gerrymander election results to favor the GOP, Democrats will retake the House, putting Speaker and Trump wonk Mike Hasno Johnson out of a job. But could it get worse for the GOP than that? Well, one strategist, often considered the most pivotal of the 21st century, is now warning that yes, it really could get worse for the GOP. By a lot. I speak, of course, of Karl Rove, chief strategist for President George W. Bush, and a man so awful Satan himself once told him to calm down. Allegedly. Yesterday, Rove published an open letter to the GOP in the Wall Street Journal that warns Trump has completely lost the public, in large part due to his own narcissism. Focusing on campaigning for a Nobel Peace Prize he doesn't deserve, renaming buildings for himself, launching a new class of naval warship named for himself, and so on. Not only does such self-centeredness make Trump look out of touch, it makes him look like he doesn't even care about his voters. MS Now has more.
And it reads in part this way. There are signs that the public is tiring of President Trump's hyperbole and insatiable desire for retribution. Increasingly, they may hear only the offensive or cruel things he says. Has the president convinced himself that he doesn't need to sell his policies and actions? It appears that he believes he can simply will people into agreeing with him by claiming his achievements are the biggest, best, and most amazing in American history. He's gone way too far by slapping his name on buildings, like the Donald J. Trump and the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and government programs, the Navy's Trump-class battleship. He might receive a fawning reaction from his MAGA base, but the average American finds such narcissism off-putting. Americans would be much more likely to support Mr. Trump if he explained what he's doing and asked for patience as his administration makes necessary changes. But that isn't his way. Presidents do best when they underpromise and overdeliver. The opposite, overpromising and underdelivering, angers voters. They often take out their anger at the ballot box.
So there it is. Karl Rove, a man who once tried to engineer an imperial presidency for one of the worst presidents in American history, and we are talking the bottom 5, folks, is now warning the actual worst president ever that he's lost the public and that his attempt at a self-aggrandizing presidency will be his downfall. But Rove's real message here isn't to Trump. It's to Mike Hasno Johnson, John Thune, and even the Trump cabinet. This is a recipe for political disaster. And while the MS Now panel points out parallels between Trump and Biden, the sudden appearance of Karl Rove, as though someone performed an unholy rite to summon him, is a much bigger sign. The real parallel here is with George W. Bush, a man so out of touch that a new generation of Democrats retook both chambers of Congress against all odds in 2006, and a man who so thoroughly discredited his own party that it was annihilated in 2008, only to be reborn as the party of Trumpism 8 years later. And when was the last time you saw George W. Bush on the campaign trail? Or for that matter, speaking in public anywhere? Rove stops short of writing a political obituary, but he notes his party under Trump is hanging by a thread. And even if Democrats can't cut it loose, Trump is working to do so himself. So stay tuned, everybody. The real show begins in 2026. This is Occupy Democrats.